This video is actually kind of a follow-up to a video that I did, I believe, back in December, where I was talking about a young athlete or young basketball player who used to play at the at Coppin State University, where he had came out and basically said he was being catfished by a person who worked for the team, and they were doing all kinds of weird things. If y'all remember what video I'm talking about, what I'll do, I'll just leave the link to that video down in the comment section. I didn't really know what else came of that story besides that he ended up transferring from the school, which is definitely good for him, and it just kind of got left alone after that. But then someone left a comment under that particular video today, as I'm recording this video on March 21st, saying that Juan Dixon, who this is right here in the picture, had got fired as the head coach for the school. Now you got to think, this happened back in December, or this revelation came out in December, and he just now got fired in March, last week, might I add, because he got fired. The report went out on March 14th, but it got buried really completely by the media, and that's just how it is. Now, before I really actually get into the story itself, I'm going to give y'all like a little, if y'all don't know who Juan Dixon is. Juan Dixon, he pretty much gained notoriety when he was in college, because he used to go to University of Maryland back in I want to say like the late 90s, early 2000s. And what made him rise to really prominence while he was at that school was when they won I believe it was the tournament. I think they won March Madness or the NCAA. I forget which one it was. And it was a historical win for the school at the time. And then that actually helped him get drafted into the NBA, in which he went on to play for the Washington Wizards. And that was at the time when Michael Jordan had came out of retirement, and he did his last NBA career run with the Wizards back in the early 2000s. When I tell you Juan Dixon had the entire city on his back then, like, y'all don't know how big of a deal it was to have him play for that team. And I believe he was the #1 draft pick that year. And it was just like, everyone was going to the games, especially to see him, because what he did at Maryland, and people was coming out to see him play and all types of good stuff like that. And of course, Michael Jordan came in, then everyone came to see him. It was a much different landscape back then. You just had to be there to see it. But then after he retired from professional basketball, I didn't really hear much about him again until much later on. Now, he went on, he got married, and I believe, he had started a family and everything like that. His wife is on this show, and I'll understand if y'all don't watch it, but I know some of the women and the ladies who watch my channel probably watch this show or have heard of it. But his wife is on this show called Real Housewives of Potomac, is another one of them housewife shows. So in her own right, she's a quote unquote reality star. And then that's when he kind of emerged back into people's knowing who it was. When they said Juan Dixon, they said Juan Dixon, the one that used to play for University of Maryland and went on to play with the Wizards. Yeah, that Juan Dixon. But then he also was the head coach of Coppin State University's men's basketball team. So he kind of like really emerged or reemerged via that avenue. And that's pretty much all I really knew about it. So fast forward to the video that I did last year. He then got back into the realm of being out there more so because of this scandal / controversy. Because if you remember in the video, you can go and watch it if you haven't or need a refresher, just in case all the details are fuzzy. One of his athletes, the guys on his team, had went and talked to him and to the school about this assistant coach, or whoever this person was, about them catfishing him and him thinking it was somebody else, and it really wasn't. So in a way, he started stalking him and asking him to send these pictures and sending stuff to him, like very inappropriate stuff. And the player went and told Juan Dixon like so many times about what was going on, and Juan Dixon did nothing. He did not handle the situation the way that he was supposed to, and neither did the school. So this whole thing just kind of blew up a little bit, at least on the campus side of things. And now it's gotten to this point where now Juan Dixon, in my honest opinion, rightfully got fired. I don't know what took them so long to actually get to the point of firing him, considering that this was an issue or has been an ongoing issue for quite some time. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and read the article coming from Sports Illustrated and see what other details comes from this. Dixon, a former NBA player and All-American player at Maryland, led the Eagles program to a 50-131 mark in 6 seasons, including a 9-23 record in the 2022-2023 season. The former Terrapin star took over the program ahead of the 2017-2018 season. Dixon accumulated his highest number of wins in the 2019-2020 season when Coppin State won 11 games. However, the Eagles had their most success under Dixon during the 2020-2021 campaign, despite fewer wins, when the program tied for the MEAC North Division title during a shortened season. The Eagles carried the momentum from that campaign into the 21-22 season when they finished the 9-23 loss to Norfolk State in the MEAC title game. In December, while leading the Eagles program, Dixon came under fire for how he handled, or should I say he did not handle, a situation involving a former player filing a lawsuit against one of Dixon's former staff members, claiming that the assistant manipulated him into sending nude photos and sexually suggestive text messages and extorting him in the process. The Eagles have not had a winning season since the 2010-2011 campaign. So this article is stating that they pretty much fired him because, from what I'm reading and based on these horrible numbers, he wasn't a good coach. The team was performing horribly. Like, those numbers are terrible, but they only slightly touched on those, what happened with him in that, what didn't happen with his former athlete, his former player, plus this assistant coach or whoever this person was. And like I said, if you can go back and look at the video itself, because that video actually goes into more detail about what happened with that player and this assistant coach, or what this assistant coach was trying to do. Like, imagine you being catfished by someone that close to you and you didn't know who it was, and then when you find out, nothing happens. So I found it interesting that they only focused on the fact that he was having losing seasons, coaching this team that wasn't really going anywhere, more so than what he should have been fired for, which was him not doing what he was supposed to do as a coach and handling this situation with the player and his now former assistant. I don't feel bad for Juan Dixon at all. Whether he got fired because he wasn't a good coach or he got fired because he didn't handle the situation at hand, it is what it is at this point. Because you had a duty to protect your players and make sure that they're good, and you didn't. And for what? Because based on these numbers, it doesn't look like y'all was going much anywhere as far as competing. And when you try to look something up about this story, or you type Juan Dixon's name into the Google search, it keeps pulling up stuff about him and his wife's marital problems. I don't care about that. I could care less about whatever they got going on. Whatever they got going on in their marriage, as far as I'm concerned, is between the two of them. But because his wife's in the public eye, they're going to constantly put stuff out there. Like, if you literally go and type in Juan Dixon's name into the Google search, you see about a good 5 or 6 articles pertaining to his infidelities within their marriage before you get to the one I just read. I could care less that he had a horrible season as far as not him being a coach. Because when I was reading some other stuff, it's basically saying that he's never had a winning season for as long as he's been the coach at this school. But I guess y'all kept him on because of the name. And y'all thought y'all can get a turnaround, but they said he never had a winning season. And the only time that he had the best year was in the 20-21 season because it was shortened due to the pandemic. Like, so, yeah. But as far as him turning a blind eye to this is very upsetting and disturbing and disappointing. Because I wouldn't expect this to come from someone like this, but then again, you got to expect the unexpected sometime. This guy literally turned a blind eye to what was going on with one of his athletes. The athlete ended up losing the scholarship naturally because he transferred. Unfortunately, the scholarship didn't transfer with him. And then, of course, they ended up firing the assistant. But the thing is, was the assistant ever brought up on any charges? Because I didn't read anywhere that said that they were when they should have been. And I believe the assistant used to play basketball too. Like when they were, in their I guess you could say their prime years. Not on a professional level, I believe, but more on a collegiate level. But yeah, Juan Dixon, he has some issues that he definitely has to iron out. And it's definitely going to make people really look at him with a side eye, because like this guy literally is painted as a villain between what's going on with him in his marriage and all these things about him cheating on his wife. And also him turning up, in my opinion, which really makes him look like the bad guy, turning a blind eye to his athlete. And for what? It's not like you were winning anyway, so I don't know how this would have hindered you any further. The best thing he could have did to make himself come out on top was handling the situation when it was supposed to be handled. The fact that he turned a blind eye and just said F it and just said you can leave, in so many words, he probably didn't say that, but he might as well have, makes him look like a scumbag in my eyes.